First guest tonight is an Oscar winner and an easy reader. Starting on October 27th, he returns for season 2 of Lioness on Paramount Plus. Please welcome the one and only Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman isn't just an actor, he's a presence. His voice alone commands attention, instantly recognizable and rich with authority. But his path to becoming one of Hollywood's most respected figures wasn't handed to him. He didn't rise to fame overnight. In fact, it took decades of hard work, setbacks, and persistence before the world finally took notice. Born in the Deep South during the height of segregation, Freeman's early years were far from glamorous. He bounced between different states, served in the military, and spent years doing theater and television work before finally getting his big break, long after most actors would have given up. His story isn't just about talent, it's about determination, resilience, and proving that success has no deadline. Morgan Freeman was born on June 1st, 1937 in Memphis, Tennessee, into a world where racial barriers shaped nearly every aspect of life. His parents, Mamie Edna and Morgan Porterfield Freeman Sr., were hardworking but constantly on the move, searching for better opportunities. His father worked as a barber, while his mother took jobs as a school teacher and domestic worker. The family relocated frequently, moving between Mississippi, Indiana, and Illinois, which meant Freeman spent much of his early years adapting to new schools and new environments. Despite the uncertainty of moving from place to place, young Morgan found stability in storytelling. He was drawn to the world of movies, fascinated by the characters on the big screen. His first experience with acting came unexpectedly. When he was 9 years old, he got into trouble at school and was given a choice: either face punishment or take part in a school play. He chose the play. That decision changed everything. The moment he stepped onto the stage, he realized he loved performing. The audience, the reaction, the thrill of stepping into a different character, it all felt natural to him. As he entered his teenage years, Freeman continued acting in school plays, but he also developed a deep love for flying. Inspired by war movies and the sight of military aircraft in the skies, he dreamed of becoming a fighter pilot. After graduating from Broad Street High School in Greenwood, Mississippi, he was offered a drama scholarship to Jackson State University, but he turned it down. Instead, he enlisted in the U.S. Air Force in 1955, determined to make his dream of flying a reality. But reality was different from what he imagined. Rather than being assigned to a cockpit, Freeman found himself working as a radar technician and mechanic, stationed at various bases where he was responsible for tracking aircraft rather than flying them. It didn't take long for the glamour of military life to wear off. He spent 4 years in the service, and by the time he was nearing the end of his enlistment, he realized something crucial. He wasn't meant to be a pilot. The rigid structure of military life wasn't where he belonged. His passion for acting had never left him, and he knew he had to give it a real shot. In 1959, Freeman left the Air Force, packed his bags, and set his sights on Los Angeles, the city where dreams were made or broken. He didn't have a clear plan, and success wouldn't come easily, but he had already learned the value of patience and perseverance, and those lessons would serve him well in the years ahead. Leaving the Air Force was a leap into the unknown, but Morgan Freeman wasn't afraid of starting over. In 1959, with little more than determination and raw talent, he made his way to Los Angeles, chasing the dream that had been quietly pulling at him for years. Hollywood was a tough place for any aspiring actor, but for a young black man in the early 1960s, the road to success was especially narrow. To survive, Freeman took on whatever work he could find. He enrolled at Los Angeles City College, where he studied theater arts and fine-tuned his craft. At night, he worked odd jobs to keep himself afloat, including clerk positions and delivery gigs. Unlike many young actors who aimed straight for film roles, Freeman knew that real training mattered. He spent time at the Pasadena Playhouse, a well-respected theater that had launched many careers before him. Here, he learned not just how to act, but how to command an audience, how to use his presence, his voice, and his physicality to make a role his own. But Hollywood wasn't knocking down his door. In a time when major film roles for black actors were scarce, Freeman had to carve out his own path. He started on stage, performing in regional theater productions, Shakespearean plays, and experimental dramas. Theater became his training ground, and even though the pay was low and the audience small, he was building something more valuable than a paycheck. He was earning respect as a serious actor. By the mid-1960s, Freeman took another step forward and moved to New York City, where opportunities for black performers were slightly better than in Hollywood. He joined the Negro Ensemble Company, a groundbreaking theater group that nurtured some of the greatest black actors of the era. era. Through grit and relentless work, he built a reputation in the theater world, landing roles that showcased his versatility. At the same time, television was becoming an unexpected avenue for work. He began appearing in small guest roles on soap operas and children's programs, and while it wasn't glamorous, it kept him in front of cameras. He even worked as a dancer on variety shows to pay the bills. Nothing came easy, but Freeman wasn't looking for shortcuts. He was putting in the years, paying his dues, and waiting for the moment when the world would finally take notice. By the late 1960s, Morgan Freeman had spent years grinding away in theater and taking whatever roles he could find. He had talent, discipline, and a presence that stood out, but Hollywood still wasn't offering him the opportunities he deserved. Then came a game-changing moment, though not in the way most actors dream of. He landed a role on a children's television show. In 1971, Freeman joined the cast of The Electric Company, a PBS educational program designed to teach kids how to read. The show featured catchy songs, comedic sketches, and a diverse cast, aiming to make learning fun. While it wasn't a big-budget Hollywood production, it was steady work, and more importantly, it put Freeman's face and voice in front of millions of viewers. On the show, he played multiple characters, but his most famous was Easy Reader, a laid-back, ultra-cool guy who made reading look like the smoothest thing in the world. With his effortless charisma and deep voice, Freeman turned a simple literacy segment into something genuinely entertaining. The character became a fan favorite, and even though it was a kid's show, adults started taking notice of the man behind the role. For Freeman, The Electric Company was a double-edged sword. It provided a steady paycheck, something many actors never get, and it gave him a level of national recognition. But at the same time, it boxed him in. He spent 6 years on the show, from 1971 to 1977, and by the end, he felt stuck. He wasn't getting serious film offers, and he worried that Hollywood only saw him as a children's entertainer, not the dramatic actor he had trained to be. By the time the show ended, Freeman was frustrated and disillusioned with the industry. He walked away from television and returned to theater, where he could once again take on the kind of roles that challenged him. He didn't know it at the time, but his best years were still ahead of him. The world just hadn't caught up to his talent yet. By the late 1970s, Morgan Freeman was at a crossroads. He had spent years proving himself on stage, had become a household name among children through The Electric Company, but Hollywood still wasn't knocking on his door with the roles he wanted. He knew he had more to offer than supporting parts or background characters, but the film industry wasn't built to recognize black actors as leading men. That, however, was about to change. The 1980s brought a shift. Freeman started getting roles in television dramas and films that allowed him to showcase his range. But it wasn't until 1987 that everything changed. That year, he played Fast Black, a ruthless pimp in Street Smart. The role was gritty, intense, and miles away from the friendly persona he had built on children's television. Critics took notice. Freeman's performance was so powerful that it earned him his first Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. With that nomination, Hollywood finally started paying attention. Freeman wasn't just another character actor. He had presence, depth, and the ability to dominate a scene without saying much. More opportunities followed, but it was 1989 that cemented him as a star. That year, he delivered 2 unforgettable performances: Hope Colburn in Driving Miss Daisy and Principal Joe Clark in Lean on Me. In Driving Miss Daisy, he played a dignified, wise chauffeur who slowly forms a bond with his employer, played by Jessica Tandy. It was a role that required restraint and subtlety, and Freeman played it masterfully. The film was a massive success, winning Best Picture at the Oscars, and Freeman was nominated for Best Actor, a rare achievement for a black actor at the time. That same year, he gave a completely different kind of performance in Lean on Me, playing Joe Clark, a no-nonsense principal who takes charge of an inner-city school plagued by crime and violence. The role allowed Freeman to showcase his intensity, delivering fiery monologues and commanding every scene. Audiences loved it. By the early 1990s, Freeman had become the kind of actor who could do it all: drama, action, even a bit of comedy. But if there was one movie that truly sealed his status as a Hollywood legend, it was 1994's The Shawshank Redemption. Playing Ellis Red Redding, a wise and weary prison inmate, Freeman gave a performance that was both powerful and deeply human. His narration, his quiet expressions, the way he carried the character's pain and resilience, it all made Shawshank one of the most beloved films of all time. The movie wasn't a box office hit at first, but it grew into a cultural phenomenon, and today, it's It's often ranked among the greatest films ever made. By the mid-90s, Freeman was no longer just a respected actor, he was a Hollywood institution. He had broken past every obstacle the industry had put in his way, proving that talent and perseverance could defy expectations. But this was just the beginning. His career was about to enter a phase that most actors never reach, true lasting icon status. By the time the 2000s rolled around, Morgan Freeman wasn't just a respected actor, he was a cinematic force. He had spent decades proving himself, and now he was at the point where his name alone brought instant credibility to a film. He wasn't just playing characters anymore, he was becoming a symbol of wisdom, authority, and quiet strength. In 2004, Freeman hit another milestone. He played Eddie Scrap Iron Dupree, a wise, retired boxer in Million Dollar Baby. His performance was raw and heartfelt, showing a side of him that was both tough and deeply compassionate. The film, directed by Clint Eastwood, was a critical and commercial success, and after years of nominations, Freeman finally won his first Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. It was long overdue. His career didn't slow down. In the mid-2000s, Freeman took on one of his most famous roles, Lucius Fox in the Dark Knight trilogy. As Bruce Wayne's tech-savvy ally, he brought a calm, effortless authority to the role, making him a fan favorite in the already star-studded franchise. Whether it was alongside Christian Bale's Batman or Heath Ledger's Joker, Freeman had a presence that couldn't be ignored. By this time, Freeman's voice alone had become legendary. Directors realized that his deep, commanding tone could make anything sound profound. This led to him narrating everything from documentaries to commercials, with his most famous narration coming in March of the Penguins, 2005. His voice gave the nature documentary an emotional weight that helped turn it into a box office hit. Through the 2000s, 10s, and beyond, Freeman remained as relevant as ever. He starred in action-packed hits like Wanted, 2008, Red, 2010, and Now You See Me, 2013, proving that even in his 70s, he could hold his own alongside younger stars. He also took on roles in historical dramas, portraying figures like Nelson Mandela in Invictus, 2009, a performance that once again showcased his unmatched ability to bring dignity and depth to real-life legends. But even as he continued to dominate Hollywood, Freeman never forgot his roots. He invested in film production, worked on projects that spotlighted Black history, and opened the Ground Zero Blues Club in Mississippi, keeping the spirit of blues music alive. His love for storytelling wasn't limited to the screen. He wanted to preserve culture and history in any way he could. Most actors, by the time they reach their 80s, have long since retired or faded from the spotlight. Not Morgan Freeman. As recently as New Year's Eve 2025, he was still making headlines, surprising fans by performing a duet with Al Green at his blues club. Even now, with decades of work behind him, he continues to engage, inspire, and entertain. Morgan Freeman's career isn't just about longevity, it's about consistency, reinvention, and proving that time only makes great actors even greater. He's more than a Hollywood legend. He's a living piece of cinematic history, and he's still writing new chapters. Morgan Freeman's life isn't just a success story, it's a lesson in patience, persistence, and knowing your worth. He wasn't an overnight sensation. He didn't skyrocket to fame in his 20s or even his 30s. He put in the work, fought through rejection, and waited for the world to catch up to his talent. His journey from a boy in the segregated South to a struggling actor doing theater to one of the most respected names in Hollywood proves that success doesn't come with an expiration date. Freeman redefined what a leading man could look like, proving that presence, wisdom, and sheer skill can be just as powerful as youth and good looks. But his impact goes beyond the screen. His voice, his performances, and his ability to bring depth to every role have made him a cultural icon. Whether he's narrating a documentary, playing a world leader, or delivering a quiet, emotional moment in a film, he makes every scene feel important. Even now, with decades of work behind him, he's still not done. Morgan Freeman has shown us that longevity in Hollywood isn't about luck. It's about talent, resilience, and never settling for less than what you deserve. And if history has taught us anything, it's that whenever he steps onto the screen, we should pay attention.